Don't have a router table? Neither do I. Let's build one right there. Just like that. Not having the luxury of space or the budget to just go out and buy whatever machines you need simply means you just need to be a little bit more creative and come up with solutions that are quick, easy, and inexpensive. So I've got this table saw and it's got this awkward open space on one end of it. And I think that's going to be perfect for what we want to do. So the idea is this is going to be obviously mounted on that side and it's just going to drop into place like this. And then you can adjust it up and down with this knob. That's the plan. So let's get to it. So I've got some timber left from a previous project and I'm basically just ripping that into 4 long strips. And these measure about 1.4 meters by 40 millimeters by 18 millimeters thick. After that, we take some quick measurements and then we're gonna basically just cut those to length, making sure to cut all the edges square. After that, we do a quick glue up and no need for any nails or screws, just some simple clamps because this is basically gonna be sitting inside that metal frame, so it doesn't actually need anything else. The next step is to measure the inside of that frame and to cut the pieces to make a second frame that will fit inside that one. And would you know it, I measured wrong. So I'm just using a piece of offcut and I'm just going to fill that gap. It'll be fine, you'll see in a second. Same with this frame, no nails, no screws, we just glue it up. And you can hold the whole thing together with a couple of clamps. While that's drying, we can go and fit the outer frame so that we can mark out where we're going to drill our holes. Also, just a note here quickly, we are not building mirrors for NASA's space telescope, so no need to be super accurate with this. Just get it as close as you can. On the other side, you have to mark out where your holes are going to be. So this is the front side, obviously, and this side will be the back side. And we're going to put 3 bolts into this side. On the front, I'm just going to mark with a piece of masking tape where I basically want these holes to be. First on the right-hand side and then on the left-hand side. And these measurements we're basically just going to transfer to the front of this frame so it's easy to drill. And here's a little tip for you. Drill those holes a little bit bigger than what's needed. You want that bolt to have a little bit of play, and you're going to see where that comes in just a minute. Next, we're going to mark off the holes to drill on the outer frame. So I'm just using a clamp to secure that in place. And then I'm going to be using this handy little punch to mark the holes. I know there are lots of different kinds of punches like this. Some of them with a spring in the back that you just pull and release and it'll make a mark. This one, however, is nice in the sense that it is small, it's compact, it fits into spaces like this. And the best part for me is I can use it with one hand. So that leaves the other hand free to do, I don't know, scratch your nose or something. And same here, drill these holes slightly bigger than what is actually required. Next up, we're going to join the inner and outer frame together. And to do that, I'm using a piece of off-cut MDF, the same thickness as I'm going to be using for the top of this router table. Next, using a washer, place that on top of the MDF like I'm doing here, and then lift it slightly higher, and then mark off the hole that you're going to drill. By doing it this way, you're ensuring that the washer sits flush on the inside. If you don't, you're going to have a little gap on the bottom side, and I've seen some pretty nasty looking holes and things just to make that work. So to mark those holes, we're basically going to put those spaces in the bottom, flip it around, and then use the same punch just to basically make a little mark on the inside frame. Once you got those holes through, you can put some bolts through there just to keep everything in place, and then flip it around. Next, we're going to do exactly the same thing, and this is for the holes on this side. So using that spacer block, moving that washer slightly up, and then marking where we're going to drill it. Then I'm securing this with a clamp just to keep everything in place. And again, drilling those holes slightly bigger than what we actually need them to be. Now we can take this outer frame, just mark which side is the back side, and head back over to the table saw. Next, we're just going to mark off where we want those holes, and then we're going to drill them. And again, same thing, holes slightly bigger than what we actually need them to be. And now it's time to assemble the whole thing. So using nuts and bolts with washers, we're basically just going to tighten up everything to the point where it just starts to bite and we still have some movement left. So all the pieces should be able to move slightly. And finally, the reason for having these bigger holes I've been going on about. By loosening these bolts, you now have the ability to move the outside frame so that the top is flush with the top of the table saw. Once you got that right, you simply hold or clamp those two pieces down, and you repeat the same procedure for the inside frame until you have that surface level. Easy. And if you've done that right, you should be able to have a surface that's going to be absolutely flat and level all the way around. Next up, we're going to mark out the shape of this frame on the bottom side of this flat surface. And this is basically where our router is going to sit. From here, I just find the center and mark that off. On the router itself, it's got some marks, and you can just line those up perfectly along with the side edge of that template that we are using. Lucky for me, I still have this piece of acrylic. I'm just going to stick this down and use it as a template. After securing that to the work surface, I'm just going to use the router and clear around the outside. Now, don't be dumb like me. Use your dust mask right from the start, especially with stuff like MDF. You don't want that fine powder getting into your lungs. When that's done, we just use a jigsaw to cut out the bulk of the inside. And this is just a rough cut, no need to be exact yet. We're going to do that in the next step and trace out exactly the shape and cutouts that we need. Now guys, this is the part where I nearly gave birth to a baby elephant after I realized what I've done. As you can see here, these bolts are exactly in the middle, which is basically smack bang where this thing goes. Luckily, this is something that was quick and easy to sort out with a little grinder, way quicker than taking the whole thing out and just redoing the holes in a different location. Next, we'll just drop in this router and see how that fits. And as you can see, that's a pretty much perfect fit. And if you run a piece of timber around the edges, you can see nothing catches, so I'm pretty happy with that. So the big question is, does it actually work? Well, let's give it a whirl and see. And as you can see, that works beautifully. I also had an idea for dust collection on this using the fence. So make sure you subscribe for that because it is going to come up. And of course, the big question is it actually worth doing all of this and going through the trouble of making yourself a bench router like this? And the answer is yes. But I'll also tell you why I think it's worth it, and number two, what I would do differently if I had to do this again. If you look at something like this, for example, it's pretty small, and having the ability to have something like this with a big flat surface is not only easier to use, it's also much safer. If you had to do this the other way around, having the router in your hand, trying to hold this piece and just guiding it along like this, it's a bit sketchy, I think. So where this really shines is with something similar to this, where you got round over edges or just square edges or whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Just basically running it across like this and flipping it around. It's much quicker, much easier. You've got a very nice big flat surface to work on, which is absolutely great. Where it wouldn't be so good is when you had pockets like these. So if you were to do like a round over that way, you can't see anything. So having the ability to just basically pop this out quickly, flip it around and just doing it by hand, that's the main reason why I built this. And that's why I think this is definitely worth having the best of both worlds. So moving on to something that I would have changed if I had to do this again. And this is purely aesthetic. It's nothing to do with function or anything. This little support piece in the middle, I would probably not have routed out the whole bottom part of it and maybe just leave that little part there just to cover it up. And like I said, that's aesthetics. That's got nothing to do with how it actually works. The second thing is the material you're going to be using for this part. I happen to have MDF and it's really easy to work with, as you probably know. But the thing that comes to mind is form ply. So if you don't know what form ply is, it's used for making molds and things like that for concrete work. And it's already black, so it'll match this part of your table saw already. And it's got a nice flat surface to it, which is much more durable, and it's kind of slippery as well. So that will definitely be something to look into. And actually, I might even change it out to something like that in the future. So there we go, guys. Like I said, quick, easy, and inexpensive. I hope that gives you some inspiration to go and try and do something like this for yourself. Definitely worth it. So I'll catch you on the next one.